My name is Joanna Miles. I'm 26, and in my family, image is everything. Truth, optional. I grew up understanding one unspoken rule: whoever looks successful wins. Whoever struggles becomes the cautionary tale. And that was always me. Not because I failed, but because I didn't follow the script. While my older sister, Emily, climbed corporate ladders and curated a picture-perfect social media life, I chose consulting work, short contracts, research-heavy roles, projects that didn't translate into flashy job titles. To my parents, that meant one thing: unstable, unimpressive, embarrassing. So when Emily brought home her new boyfriend, Evan Carter, I already knew how this would go. He walked into Sunday dinner like he was stepping onto a stage. Tailored suit, confident handshake, the kind of smile that lingered just a second too long. My mother lit up like she'd just won the lottery. My father straightened in his chair, and I became invisible. Dinner started politely enough. Small talk, work updates, the usual performance. Then Evan turned to me. "So Joanna," he said casually, slicing into his steak, "what's keeping you busy these days?" It sounded harmless, but I knew that tone. I answered calmly: "Consulting projects, data analysis." He nodded slowly, too slowly. Freelancing. The word hung in the air like smoke. My dad shifted. My mom smiled tightly. And then Evan leaned back in his chair. "Must be nice having that much free time." Laughter erupted around the table. Even my father chuckled. It wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. But humiliation doesn't have to be. It seeps. It burns under your skin. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My fork paused midair. My chest tightened, but not from sadness, from recognition. This was deliberate. He continued, "I mean, not everyone's built for corporate pressure, right?" Another laugh. I looked at him, really looked at him. And that's when it happened. He started talking about his job, about leading analytics strategy for a major investment firm in Chicago, about overseeing compliance reviews, about managing private investor portfolios. The words were polished, impressive, but something didn't fit. The department he described didn't handle investor portfolios. Not like that. And when he casually mentioned conducting internal regulatory audits, my stomach dropped, because that wasn't his division's responsibility at all. I didn't say anything. I didn't defend myself. I didn't challenge him. I just nodded and listened, because in that moment, something shifted inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the weakest person at the table. I was the only one who knew he was lying. And I decided right there, I wouldn't confront him. Not yet. I would wait. Because the thing about performers, they eventually forget their lines. And when they do, the truth gets loud. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of what he said, but because of how confidently he said it. There's a difference between exaggerating and fabricating. And I've worked in data long enough to recognize when numbers don't align. The next morning, I made coffee and replayed every sentence Evan had delivered like a keynote speaker at my parents' dining table. Private investor portfolios, regulatory audits, senior analytics oversight, impressive buzzwords, wrong combinations. It would have been easy to brush it off. Plenty of people inflate their roles. But this wasn't inflation. It was construction. So I did what I do best. I researched. Nothing illegal. Nothing invasive. Just public information. Corporate filings. Department structures. Press releases. LinkedIn updates. On paper, mid-level analytics manager at a respected Chicago investment firm. But the responsibilities he described, they belonged to an entirely different division. I kept it casual. "Hey, random question. Does the Chicago analytics team handle direct investor portfolios now?" His response came fast. "Nope. That's strictly NY. Chicago supports internal modeling only." Strike two. My pulse didn't race. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt steady, like I was watching puzzle pieces slide into place. Over the next few days, I dug deeper. Conference appearances, he claimed. No records. Published strategy papers he referenced didn't exist. Then I found something interesting. A small LLC registered under his name. No website. No listed employees. Registered to a virtual office suite downtown. I stared at the filing for a long time. Why would a senior analytics lead need a shadow consulting company? Unless the real story wasn't the one he'd told at dinner. I followed the trail further. Online investment forums. Archived discussions. Private funding threads. And there it was, a username tied to promotional posts about exclusive early-stage portfolio opportunities, heavy on jargon, light on documentation. The writing style, identical to his, confident, condescending, persuasive. A few commenters praised him, others questioned missing returns. One wrote, "Still waiting on my payout from last quarter." My jaw tightened. It wasn't definitive proof of fraud, but it was enough to see the pattern. He wasn't a corporate powerhouse. He was playing one, and suddenly, that dinner table made sense. The confidence, the mockery, the need to belittle me. People who build themselves on illusion can't stand someone who sees clearly. And I saw him, completely. Then the wedding invitation arrived. Cream envelope, gold script, Emily and Evan, a celebration of forever. I held the card in my hands and felt something settle deep in my chest. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about timing. Because if Evan was building his life on deception, the wedding would be the biggest stage he'd ever stand on. And performers? They always think the spotlight protects them. It doesn't. It exposes them. The invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened the RSVP link. I didn't hesitate when I clicked accept. This wasn't about ruining a wedding. It was about preventing a lifetime. Over the next week, I organized everything. Screenshots, public filings, archived forum threads, payment dispute records tied to usernames connected to his LLC. Nothing dramatic, just facts. Cold, verifiable, quiet. I didn't tell my parents. They wouldn't hear it. I didn't tell Emily. She wouldn't believe it. Love makes people defensive. Image makes them blind. The rehearsal dinner came and went without incident. Evan worked the room like a politician, firm handshakes, calculated laughter, subtle name dropping. My parents glowed beside him, proud to present their future son-in-law. At one point, he caught my eye across the patio, smirked, like he knew I was still the family underachiever. I smiled back, because I knew something he didn't. The morning of the wedding arrived gray and humid, the sky hanging low over the vineyard venue just outside Chicago. Wide chairs lined the aisle. Soft music floated through the air. Guests adjusted tea-eyes and sipped champagne. Everything looked perfect. Emily walked down the aisle radiant, hopeful, completely unaware. Evan stood waiting, polished and poised. Vows were exchanged. Applause followed. Rings slid into place. And just like that, they were married. The reception bloomed into motion. Glasses clinked. Laughter swelled. My father gave a speech about integrity and ambition. My mother wiped emotional tears. Then Evan stood to toast. He thanked the guests, praised Emily, talked about building a future on trust and transparency. Trust, transparency. The irony pressed against my ribs. When the applause faded and people began drifting toward the bar, I stood up. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady. I walked toward the head table, clutch in hand. Emily saw me first. She smiled softly, maybe thinking I'd finally come around. Evan's smile tightened when I stopped in front of him. I placed a folder on the table between us. He glanced down, then froze. And for the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain. They stepped into the hallway beside the reception office, the door swinging shut behind them. The music kept playing. Glasses still clinked, but the illusion had cracked. My mother turned to me first, her smile gone. "You couldn't wait?" she whispered sharply. "Just one day." I kept my voice even. "Would you have listened yesterday?" She froze, because we both knew the answer. My father scanned the pages again, slower this time. His brows tightened as numbers and dates lined up too cleanly to ignore. Across the room, guests were pretending not to stare. 10 minutes passed, then 15. When Emily returned, her mascara was untouched, but her expression wasn't the same. It was stripped of softness, focused, controlled. Evan followed behind her, tie loosened, confidence drained from his posture. "The honeymoon is cancelled," Emily said calmly. My mother inhaled sharply. "Emily, he's been taking private investments through that LLC," she continued, holding up the papers, promising short-term returns, using new deposits to cover old ones. A ripple of murmurs spread across nearby tables. "It's temporary liquidity management," Evan snapped. "It's not illegal." Emily looked at him like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. "Then why didn't you tell me everything?" He hesitated. That hesitation said more than any accusation. My father's tone changed now. Less defensive, more calculating. "How much exposure?" Evan opened his mouth, then closed it. Emily exhaled slowly. Enough. The DJ lowered the volume. Conversations dimmed. No dramatic shouting. No shattered glass. Just reality settling over white tablecloths and half-finished champagne. Evan tried one last time. You're going to let her ruin this? Emily's voice didn't shake. She didn't ruin anything. She showed me the truth. Then she slipped off her ring, placed it gently beside her glass. And just like that, the performance was over. For a second, no one moved. The ring sat on the table, catching the soft glow of the reception lights. A symbol of forever reduced to a quiet piece of metal. Between two untouched champagne glasses, Evan's face shifted from pale to desperate. Emily, don't do this, he said, lowering his voice as if privacy could still be salvaged. We can fix this. It's just temporary pressure. Temporary? She repeated calmly. You told me everything was stable. He ran a hand through his hair, scanning the room like he was searching for an ally. No one stepped forward, because once confidence cracks, people see the seams. My mother looked devastated, not at him, but at the spectacle. My father stood rigid, processing numbers instead of emotions. Emily turned to me. There was no anger in her eyes, no accusation, just something raw and honest. You knew, she said quietly. I suspected, I replied. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I swallowed. Because you trusted him more than you trusted me. That landed gently, but it landed. She nodded once, the truth settling between us like a long overdue confession. Evan's voice sharpened. This is insane. You're throwing away a marriage over paperwork? Emily looked at him steadily. I'm walking away because you lied. Simple. Clean. Final. A few guests quietly gathered their coats. The DJ stopped the music entirely. Staff began clearing glasses that no one was drinking from anymore. The perfect wedding dissolved without drama, just gravity. Emily stepped back from him. I need space, she said. And a lawyer. That was the moment he truly unraveled. The arrogance drained. The charm evaporated. All that remained was a man exposed by his own overconfidence. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. For years, I'd been the underachiever, the unstable one, the easy target at dinner tables. But when it mattered most, I was the only one who paid attention. As I walked toward the exit, my mother called my name, but there was no accusation in it this time. Just uncertainty. Outside, the evening air felt cooler than before. I reached my car and paused, looking back once at the glowing vineyard windows. The image had shattered, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't the family embarrassment. I was the one who refused to stay silent. Sometimes revenge isn't about humiliation. It's about truth arriving at the exact moment it can't be ignored. And sometimes walking away isn't loss. It's freedom.